Hi, this is Mrs. Boland making the last little bit of a video helping everybody get ready for their next exam on this coming Thursday. We did problem 11 in class, but just for simple review, I'm going to go ahead and do it one more time on the video to help make sure everybody understands it. So this is U substitution. And the reason we're going to do U substitution is because when you look at this problem right here, you're going to notice it's not in the standard quadratic equation form. You'll notice that right here we have an x to the fourth and then an x squared. So normally what we have is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So we want to change this equation into our standard form using U substitution, solve it, and then substitute back in the values for u to solve for x. So for this very first problem right here, we want to go ahead and we want to just write down the problem and say it's 3x to the fourth minus 2x squared minus 1 equals 0. It's important to notice that when the variable is raised to a power for a, the leading variable, is twice the middle term. So we have 4 and 2. 2 times 2 is 4, so this is twice this one here. It is actually in a standard quadratic form. So we're going to say, we're going to let u equal x squared, which you're going to always let u basically equal whatever the power is of the middle one. So let me go ahead and move that up a little bit. We're going to end up then with 3u squared minus 2u minus 1 equals 0. We're going to do our slide, multiply, and divide. So we're going to slide our 3 over, and so we go 3 times 1, which is 3, and it is a negative, so it'll be a negative 3. So we're going to end up with u squared minus 2u minus 3 equals 0. We can factor this, and we'll put u and u because we have a coefficient of 1 right there. Our factors for 3, it's a prime number, are going to be 3 and 1, and you're going to notice that we have a negative sign right there, so that tells us that we have opposite signs. So we're going to have a positive and a negative. Our factors are 3 and 1. Since the middle term right here is negative, that tells me the larger of the two factors is going to be negative and the other is going to be positive. So we have successfully factored this quadratic, but now we need to remember that we multiplied or slid over our 3, so we're going to have to take and divide both sides here by 3. So remember, it's slide, multiply, and then divide. This right here is a fraction, so we're going to go ahead and move the 3 right in front of the u. So we end up with 3u plus 1 times, this one here reduces to the number 1, u minus 1. Now I can set each factor equal to 0 and solve for u. So I have 3u plus 1 equals 0, u minus 1 equals 0. Subtract 1 from both sides, and I get 3u is equal to negative 1. Divide both sides through by 3, and I get therefore u is equal to negative 1/3. Over here I'm going to add 1 to both sides, and I get u is equal to 1. Now I have successfully solved for u, but I have not solved for x. And x is what we have in the original equation, so therefore we must solve for the variable of x, not u. Remember that u is equal to x squared, so that means I have negative 1/3 is equal to x squared, and then I have 1 is equal to x squared. In order to solve this equation right here for x, I need to take the square root of both sides. So I'm going to get x is equal to the square root of negative 1/3, which is equal to positive and negative I can pull out my negative, square root of 1/3. And then on the other one here, I have x squared is equal to 1. Take the square root of both sides. I'm going to get x is equal to positive and negative 1. So therefore, x is equal to positive, negative 1, and then the positive and negative square root of 1/3 I. And that is going to be our answer for problem 11. And that makes perfect sense. You're going to notice that I have 4 answers, a positive 1, a negative 1, positive square root of 1/3 times I, and a negative square root of 1/3 times I. That gives me 4 answers, and you'll notice that my original equation was to the power of 4, which tells me I will have 4 solutions. The last equation that I want to go over, the last U substitution that I want to go over, is problem number 12. And problem number 12 is a little bit different form than the one we just did. You'll notice that we have an x minus 1 in the common areas, and this is to the second power, this is to the first power. And our c is on the right hand side. So let's go ahead and say, let u equal x minus 1. In that case, I will end up with 4u squared minus 9u is equal to -2. Now let's go ahead and bring our 2 over. So we'll add 2 to both sides. So I have 4u squared minus 9u plus 2 equals 0. I haven't solved this one in a while, so I'm not sure if it factors. So I'm just going to go ahead and do the quadratic equation, and therefore I don't have to worry about whether it factors nicely or not. So in this case, my a is equal to 4, my b is equal to -9, and my c is equal to 2. So I have u is equal to minus b, plus or minus, let me go ahead and see if I can erase that right there, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, and that whole thing is over 2a. So this is negative times a -9 plus or minus the square root of -9 squared minus 4 times a, which is 4, times c, which is 2, all over 2 times a, which is 4. So I have u is equal to negative times a negative is going to give me a positive 9, plus or minus the square root 9 squared, -9 squared is 81, minus 4 times 4 is 16, times 2 is 32, divided by 8. Now I'm going to end up with 9 plus or minus 81 minus 32 is equal to 49. So I end up with 9 plus or minus the square root of 49 divided by 8, which is equal to 9 plus or minus the, not the square root, plus or minus 7, because the square root of 49 is 7, divided by 8. So this is going to be equal to 9 minus 7 divided by 8. And my second answer is 9 plus 7 divided by 8. So I have u is equal to 9 minus 7 is 2. So I end up with 2 divided by 8, comma, 9 plus 7 is 16 divided by 8, which means that u is equal to 2 will go into 2 one time, 2 will go into 8 4 times, so I end up with 1/4. And then 16 divided by 8 is 2. That is what u equals, not x. Now I need to go back and solve for x. So now, solve for x. Let's go back up to our original equation, and we said that u is equal to x minus 1. So we said u equals x minus 1. So that means I have 1/4 is equal to x minus 1, and I have 2 is equal to x minus 1. Solve for x. So we're going to add 1 to both sides, and 1 1/4 is equal to x. And over here I add 1 to both sides, and I get x is equal to 3. Therefore, x equals 3 and x equals 5/4. That's 1 1/4. Just written a little differently. And let me go back up to look at my domain. Is there any domain issues? Nope, I don't have a radical, and I do not have a fraction with a variable in the denominator. So we are set. And that is how we do U substitution on that last problem. If you understand the U substitution presented in this video thoroughly, you'll do just fine. And let me go ahead and look at the review then. I'll talk to you later. Bye.